World War I, also known as the First World War or the Great War, was a global conflict that lasted from July 28, 1914, to November 11, 1918. It involved major powers from Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas and had a profound impact on world history. The causes of World War I were complex and interconnected, involving a combination of long-term underlying factors and immediate triggers. Here are the key causes of the war. Alliance systems. Europe was divided into two major military alliances before the war: the Triple Entente France, Russia, and the United Kingdom, and the Central Powers Germany, Austria-Hungary, and later joined by the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria. These alliances created a network of obligations that escalated conflicts between individual countries. Nationalism. Nationalistic sentiments were on the rise across Europe, leading to intense competition among nations to assert their dominance and protect their interests. This strong sense of national pride contributed to heightened tensions between rival nations. Imperialism. European powers were engaged in a race to establish and expand their colonial empires, leading to conflicts over territories and resources in Africa, Asia, and other parts of the world. Militarism. Many countries were heavily militarized and saw military strength as a way to safeguard their interests and project power. The arms race, especially between Germany and the United Kingdom, fueled an atmosphere of distrust and suspicion. Assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The immediate trigger for the war was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary on June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo by a Serbian nationalist. Austria-Hungary's demand for retribution against Serbia and the subsequent chain of events led to the outbreak of war. The July Crisis. The series of diplomatic maneuvers and ultimatums that followed the assassination created a tense situation, culminating in the declaration of war by Austria-Hungary on Serbia on July 28, 1914. System of alliances. The alliance systems magnified the impact of the assassination and turned the conflict into a broader war. As various nations honored their alliances, a regional conflict escalated into a global war involving major powers. Lack of effective diplomacy. Despite attempts at mediation, diplomatic efforts failed to resolve the crisis and prevent the escalation of hostilities. These intertwined factors created a volatile environment that ultimately led to the outbreak of World War I. The war had devastating consequences and marked a significant turning point in world history. During World War I, two major alliances dominated the conflict. The Triple Entente. This alliance consisted of three main powers: France, Russia, and the United Kingdom. Later in the war, the United States also joined the Triple Entente. The Central Powers. This alliance included Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. These alliances were formed to create a balance of power and protection between the involved countries. However, as the war progressed, other countries joined or changed sides based on their interests and geopolitical situations. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in 1914 triggered a series of events that eventually led to the outbreak of World War I. During World War I, several major battles took place that had significant impacts on the course of the war. Some of the most notable ones include Battle of the Marne. This battle took place near Paris and marked the first major clash on the Western Front. The Allied forces halted the German advance and prevented them from capturing the French capital. Battle of Verdun. One of the longest and most devastating battles of the war, fought between France and Germany. It resulted in heavy casualties on both sides but ultimately ended in a French victory. Battle of the Somme. Fought between British and French forces against Germany. This battle had a tremendous toll in terms of casualties but did not result in any significant breakthrough. Battle of Jutland. A naval battle between the British Royal Navy and the German Imperial Navy in the North Sea. It was the largest naval battle of the war but did not produce a clear winner. Battle of Passchendaele. Fought in Belgium, this battle was known for its extremely difficult conditions, including heavy rain and mud. Both sides suffered heavy losses, and it ended with limited gains for the Allies. Battle of Caporetto. Also known as the 12th Battle of the Isonzo, this battle was a significant defeat for the Italian army against the Central Powers. Second Battle of the Marne. A turning point in the war, this battle marked the last major German offensive on the Western Front. The Allies, led by the French, successfully counter-attacked and pushed the Germans back. These are just a few examples, and there were many other important battles that occurred during World War I on both the Western and Eastern fronts, as well as in other theaters of the war. Trench warfare. Trench warfare was a defining feature of World War I and had a profound impact on how the war was fought. It was a military strategy where opposing armies faced each other in long, entrenched lines, creating a static and defensive front. Some key aspects of trench warfare include trench systems. Trenches were deep ditches dug into the ground to protect soldiers from enemy fire. They often stretched for miles, forming a complex network of defensive positions. No man's land. The area between opposing trench lines was known as no man's land. It was a dangerous and deadly expanse of open ground where soldiers were vulnerable to enemy fire. Stalemate. The nature of trench warfare led to a stalemate, as neither side could make significant advancements without suffering heavy casualties. This resulted in a protracted and bloody conflict. Conditions. Soldiers endured harsh living conditions in the trenches, including exposure to extreme weather, constant fear of enemy attacks, and the presence of disease-carrying pests like rats. Trench foot. A painful and debilitating condition caused by prolonged exposure to cold and wet conditions, leading to infection and sometimes requiring amputation. Over the top. Going over the top referred to soldiers leaving the safety of their trenches to charge across no man's land during an offensive. It was an extremely dangerous and often deadly maneuver. New weapons and tactics. Trench warfare saw the use of new weapons, such as machine guns, artillery, and poison gas, which caused mass casualties and changed the nature of warfare. The widespread use of trench warfare during World War I resulted in a prolonged and deadly conflict, with millions of soldiers losing their lives. It was not until later in the war, with the introduction of new tactics and technologies, that the stalemate was broken, leading to the eventual end of the war in 1918. New weapons and innovation during World War I. World War I saw the introduction of several new and innovative weapons and technologies that significantly impacted the nature of warfare. Some of these new weapons included machine guns. Light and heavy machine guns were widely used in the war. They could fire rapidly and cause devastating casualties, making traditional infantry charges extremely risky. Poison gas. Chemical weapons, such as chlorine, mustard gas, and phosgene, were introduced during World War I. They caused horrific injuries and respiratory problems, creating fear and chaos on the battlefield. Tanks. Tanks were first used in significant numbers during World War I. While early tank models were slow and unreliable, they provided mobile protection and helped break through enemy lines. Airplanes. The war marked the first extensive use of airplanes for reconnaissance, aerial combat, and bombing missions. This laid the foundation for modern aerial warfare. Submarines. Submarines, particularly German U-boats, played a significant role in naval warfare during the war. They were highly effective in disrupting supply lines and sinking enemy ships. Flamethrowers. Flamethrowers were employed to clear enemy trenches and fortifications, causing terror and destruction. Artillery. Artillery, including heavy guns and howitzers, played a critical role in softening enemy defenses and providing cover for infantry advances. These new weapons and technologies changed the face of warfare and contributed to the immense scale of casualties during World War I. They also influenced military strategies and tactics, shaping future conflicts and the development of new weapons in subsequent wars. United States involvement. The United States initially maintained a policy of neutrality when World War I broke out in 1914. However, as the war progressed, several factors led to the U.S. involvement in the conflict. Unrestricted submarine warfare. Germany began using unrestricted submarine warfare in 1917, targeting all ships, including civilian vessels, in the waters around Britain. This policy resulted in the sinking of several American ships and the loss of American lives. Zimmermann telegram. In January 1917, the British intercepted a secret telegram from Germany to Mexico, proposing an alliance against the United States. This telegram, known as the Zimmermann telegram, further angered the American public and government. Economic interests. The U.S. had significant economic ties with the Allied powers, especially Britain and France. American banks and industries were heavily invested in supporting the Allied war effort. Public opinion. As the war progressed and news of German atrocities spread, public opinion in the United States began to shift in favor of joining the Allied cause. In response to these events, President Woodrow Wilson called for a declaration of war against Germany, and on April 6, 1917, the United States officially entered World War I on the side of the Allies. The U.S. mobilized its military and industrial resources, contributing troops, supplies, and financial aid to the war effort. American involvement played a crucial role in tipping the balance in favor of the Allies and eventually led to the armistice signed on November 11, 1918, which ended the fighting. Treaty of Versailles. The peace negotiations resulted in the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, which imposed harsh conditions on Germany, leading to resentment and contributing to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in the following years. Consequences. World War I had far-reaching consequences, including political and territorial changes, economic upheavals, the collapse of empires, and profound social and cultural shifts. The war's legacy played a significant role in shaping the geopolitical landscape of the 20th century and beyond. It also set the stage for World War II, which erupted in 1939.